Great. Sorry about that little glitch. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call the Agriculture Advisory Committee meeting for Thursday, February 6th, 2025 to order. And do we have an adoption of the agenda? By Matt, seconded by Jasmine. All those in favor? It's adopted. See that Brad is joining. Randy and Brad are joining us remotely, and Jasmine, Kim, Matt are in the room.
I am not a voting member.
Oh, Kim's not a voting member, that's right.
Do you have quorum? We do have quorum.
Yes, we do have. Yeah. So. Great, and I will do adoption of one set of minutes from Thursday, sorry, from November 14th. Ag Advisory Meeting. Moved by Matt, seconded by Jasmine. Is there any errors or omissions? Call the question in. All those in favor? Excellent. And then we'll break down to reports. Just before we do that, I'll just mention that Councillor Ross wasn't able to make it today. The alternate for this committee is Councillor Stu, and he was also not able to make it. And so you got the short straw, and you got me. So I am an ex officio, so I am able to chair the meeting. Great. I will turn it over to staff then for the next report.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Three reports for the committee this afternoon. First, that's item 6.1, non-adhering residential use application for full-time farm worker housing at 28080 Downs Road, and Nick Crossman, our senior planner, will provide an introduction, and I believe the applicant is here as well.
Perfect, thank you. So the subject application requests non-adhering residential use approval for a new full-time employee residence in the ALR. The ALC is required to approve any new additional residences based on the necessity for housing and the type and scale of agriculture taking place on the property and the farm. Subject property is located in West Abbotsford, just south of Highway 1. Shown here, the farm operation includes multiple parcels, both in close proximity along the Fever, just south of Downs Road. Subject property is the northern one on this figure, and it is 13.39 hectares, and the second property to the south is 15.38 hectares. Both grow blueberries. Both properties are located in the ALR. There's limited servicing options in the area, although no new structures are proposed to facilitate this request, as I'll explain momentarily. Both properties are designated agricultural 1 uplands in the official community plan, and both are zoned agricultural 1. According to our mapping information, the soils in the area are primarily silt and clay. And the application here requests the inclusion of a 100-meter squared full-time employee residential use within the existing machine shop on the subject property, southwest corner there. Property also contains an existing single detached dwelling, as you can see there. So, subject to ALC consideration of this non-adhering residential use application, the proposal aligns with the city's zoning bylaw regulations for a full-time farm worker housing use, as outlined within the report. That being said, Council Policy C00611 provides direction on the appropriate level of farming operation for different types of farm operations. Flip back to here for a second. That one's good. For blueberries, it suggests a minimum 16 hectares to garner support for full-time farm worker housing proposals. As the northern subject property where the residence is proposed is only 13.39 hectares in area. In order to meet the prescribed level of farm operation under the policy, the applicant has included the southern property there, 3350 The Fever, which also forms part of their farm operation. Since that property is being utilized to achieve the minimum level of farm operation for full-time farm worker housing, guideline 11 of policy C00611 suggests the use of a covenant on the title of that property so that they don't pursue full-time farm worker housing in the future on that property. Use of the covenant is therefore anticipated to be included as a condition of this application when it advances to council for their consideration. And with that, we ask the Agricultural Advisory Committee to choose one of the following recommendations for council consideration: to forward to the ALC with support as presented, to forward to the ALC with changes, forward to the ALC with no comments, or to deny and not forward the application to the ALC. I wasn't sure if
Oh, yeah, does the applicant wish to speak?
Yeah, there's just a couple of things that I'd like to clarify. Would you like me to step up?
Yeah, this for recording purposes.
Yeah.
Just so you, this is the microphone for on.
Okay, yeah, no, I'll just find attachment B, I believe. The report from the ministry has an error. This was pointed out to Carolina, our planner, but that wasn't included in the submissions in your agenda. And the error is that that report is essentially just based on a false premise. And that premise is that, as you'll see, I believe pretty early on in that report, it just says that there's no shop constructed on the property. And as such, we believe that the shop should be constructed in a different location. But that shop has been constructed on the property since at the end of 2022. So the ministry did make an error there. And the only other comment I guess I have is that the farming operation includes more than just those two parcels. There's 4 additional parcels, 2 located in the city of Abbotsford and 2 located in the township of Langley. The only reason those weren't included in our application is in the interest of not having a restrictive covenant registered on the title of 6 of our properties when to meet the minimum threshold requirements required by the council policy. And yeah, barring any questions, I believe that's about it. All I wanted to clarify. Yeah, thank you.
Are all 6 of those parcels owned, or are they rented or leased?
They're all owned, yeah, and they all farm blueberries.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the worker housing, like how many workers are you looking to accommodate in
8.
that?
8.
And that's an existing structure on the farm.
That's correct, yeah. It's already built.
Thank you. Is there any other questions of the applicant while he's at the podium? Okay, then, is there any questions to staff? Perhaps we could get maybe a motion for one of the options.
I'll make a motion to support.
Okay, so your motion is to move this to belong to the ALC.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, based on 6 different parcels and meets the minimum threshold for worker housing.
Okay, we have a seconder?
I'll second.
Okay, Brad seconded. Is there anybody wishing to speak to this? Any further comments? Okay, then I will call the question. All those in favor? Okay, and opposed? It passes unanimously from the board members or from the committee members that are here. Thank you. And then we'll work with the applicant on the next steps. I guess this goes to council next.
Next steps is it will go to council and staff will work with the applicant on that time.
Thank you.
Excited?
Next
Okay.
item, sir. Yes.
Item 6.2, this is expansion of an existing church and off-street parking. Application for property at 3160 Ross Road, and planner Sabrina Daddy will provide an introduction.
Thank you. Good afternoon, committee members. The application before you is for a non-farm use that proposes to construct a 377 square meter expansion to an existing church facility and to expand the off-street parking area on a 1.89 hectare site. As the property is in the ALR, the application requires ALC approval to proceed. The committee is asked to consider if the proposal benefits current farming operations or it encourages and or enhances agriculture or agricultural business. The subject site is located in the southeast corner of McClure Road and Ross Road. The site currently accommodates the operation of the Ross Road Community Church with an accessory school use and a single detached dwelling. The subject site is a 1.89 hectare parcel that is located within the ALR. There are a number of creeks in the area, including a creek that bisects the property to the east of the existing church. The OCP land use designation is institutional, which accommodates the church and accessory school use. The subject site is zoned P3 Assembly Zone, which accommodates the church and accessory schools use. The soil capability is 6 silt and clay. This proposed site plan shows the proposed expansion as well as a proposed expansion for the parking lot in the green. This proposed site plan shows the proposed expansion of the parking lot into the grassy area to the east. And this figure 7 shows the existing and proposed floor area expansion of the existing church facility. Institutional and assembly uses are not an outright permitted non-farm use under the ALR regulation, which has necessitated a subject application for consideration. An expansion to the parking lot is required as the site was previously underparked as required by the zoning bylaw. With this proposed addition, the facility will require a total of 275 parking spaces, of which 70 are required for the addition. Currently, the site has 138 parking spaces with an additional 41 spaces provided. Should the proposal be viewed favorably, a development variance permit application would also need to be considered by council in order to accommodate the shortfall in the parking requirement. At this time, I ask the committee to resolve to support the application as proposed, support the application in another format, not support the application, or provide no comment. I will now turn it over to the applicants, Tim Ratzlaff and Victor Martin, who can provide more details.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Victor Martins. I'm a member of the Ross Road Community Church for, I guess, over 50 years. I've been a professional agrologist for over 50 years. And we've put 2 applications in previously in 1982 and 1986. And that was 1986. 1982, we replaced the old sanctuary, the old church building with a new one. And the seating capacity is the same and will be the same throughout. Our changes that occur are basically in the ancillary services of offices. We're replacing an old non-code applicable education wing that needs to be demolished, and we're replacing that with a slightly larger unit. The total additional space is about 3,500 square feet, or 377 cubic square meters. And that is actually on 2 levels. The parking request went into the 1986 application to the ALC and was approved in that particular application. And so the ALC has actually approved additional parking on that particular property. The negotiations that we've had with the city of Abbotsford has basically been with regards to present requirements for parking and code. We are not expanding our main assembly building. It's only the additional offices and so on. So really, as far as parking, we've been having the same parking for the same assembly area for over the last 35 years or so. Are there any questions? I'd be happy to.
Great. Do we have any questions of the applicant while who's at the podium? I don't see any. Great.
Okay,
Thank you. So to the committee members, do we have one of the options to move to get on the table for discussion?
Yeah, I'll support a motion to further send it to ALC.
Support. Okay, so this is for option 1. Do we have a seconder? Jasmine? Okay, let's move to seconded. Is there any other discussion, questions of staff, or comments? Mr. Neal.
Point of clarity, just for the staff report, the mover or seconder can elaborate on reasons for their support with the staff.
Oh,
Okay. Yeah, as far as a benefit to agriculture, saves them buying a larger parcel than building something on that. The biggest thing is I see no net impact on agriculture. No harm done to it. It's an underutilized piece of land that they're expanding a parking lot into, so see that as positive, be more efficient with the property they have.
great. Is there any, the seconder have any other reasoning behind it?
I think that's well said.
Great. Call the question then. All those in favor? And motion carries unanimously. And I just wanted to comment on Patty, you did a great job. I think that's your first time presenting, so yeah, very good job. Turn it back over to staff for
Okay,
item 3.
Thank you. Third and final item is a non-farm use application for 5050 Gladwin Road, and our senior planner, Xavier Ahmed, will provide an introduction.
And with permission of the chair, I'm going to go and inform the applicant they're waiting in the other room to
Yes.
join us. So
That's fine. Thank you.
See what Tim wants to say. Said it. Just curious. Members. A little bit of playing field. They basically.
Great. Very
good. Thank you. Good afternoon, chair and the respected members of the committee, as well as applicant. Thank you for joining us today. Subject proposal is an Agricultural Land Commission non-farm use application for the property located at 5050 Gladwin Road. Following out the guidelines for the committee to review the ALC non-farm use applications. The subject property is located within the Agricultural Land Reserve on the east side of Gladwin Road, north of Township Line Road in Matsky Prairie area. As per the OCP, the subject site is designated Agriculture 2 lowlands and zoned Agriculture 2 that intends to provide provision of the agricultural uses with complementary activities. The soil capabilities of the site is split between sand and silt and silt and clay. The subject application consists of two components. The first component is to establish an anaerobic digester integrated within the existing composting facility. This commercial composting facility was established back in 2010 after the approval by the ALC and subsequently authorized through the zoning bylaw amendment in 2010. The applicant is proposing to add an anaerobic digester within the existing composting facility, utilizing the existing composting operation. The facility would produce renewable natural gas, which would be sold to Fortis BC. As per the applicant, the proposal aligns with broader sustainability initiative by utilizing organic waste to generate cleaner energy. The second component of this non-farm use application is to amend the ALC resolution number 2552/2010. That is the resolution which originally authorized the commercial composting use on this property. This component involves expanding the designated area under the original 2010 resolution. This would formalize existing infrastructure and ancillary uses related to the composting operation by adding additional land to the approved area. So the area shown in light green is that area that is being proposed to be included in the original resolution, which was approved by ALC in 2010. Whereas the proposed anaerobic digester is proposed within the existing footprint of the existing operation. Considering these two components of the proposal, staff seeks the committee's input on each of the proposals separately. There are two recommendation sections under this report. The first one is to consider the component of this non-form use application to establish an anaerobic digester as part of the existing commercial composting facility to produce RNG to be sold to Fortis BC. And committee is being requested to choose one of these options. I will also go through the second recommendation and then I will put it over to the chair. The second component of this ALC non-firm use application is to amend the ALC resolution that was approved in 2010. And this include that additional area to be included in the approval to allow for the ancillary uses that are necessary for the existing operation. The committee is requested to choose one of the four options for each of the proposals separately. The applicant is also present in this room today with us, and if there are any comments or questions, they will be happy to respond. Thank you, everyone.
Excellent, thank you. I think maybe what I'll do is turn it on it to see if they want to add anything before we get to the resolutions. And then there will be an opportunity for the committee members to also ask questions of the proponents.
Yes, you can please come over.
It's not to intimidate you, it's just that the speaker is here, so that people online can hear, and then for our recording purposes.
Yeah, no problem at all. Jamie Betts, I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Evergen. Just a couple points of clarification. It was ALC who asked me to make application for the additional land. This was land that was already developed at the time of the acquisition by Evergen. And during a review for a building permit, which was inside the developed area, that ALC said, yes, you don't need additional approval. It was approved under the existing resolution. They informed me that a pond built for Ministry of Environment compliance was built outside of the approved development, as were two areas that were needed to store compost, or one area. So we looked at the approved development footprint that ALC sent me, and we said, okay, we need this land, but we don't need this land. So we suggested that this little parcel be returned to the ALR, but that basically ALC told me for the site to be in compliance, you need to put in an application. So that was the application for additional land. The anaerobic digestion facility would just be incorporated into the existing compost facility on the previously approved footprint to improve the quality of compost that would be available to agriculture or residents in the area here. AD will make a higher quality compost, and it will also, have the benefit of producing RNG to meet Fortis requirements and Government of BC renewable energy targets. So that's all I have to add. If there's any questions, I'll take any questions now.
Great, Matt.
As far as exchanging the parcels or the pieces of land in the area and pulling some out, what is the net gain or loss to the ag land versus the commercial land, I guess?
I don't have that in front of me, but I think it was like about 0.116 hectares or something. Here? You've got that,
Uh,
right?
yeah,
I
have
put it
some
in the submission.
information here.
Yeah.
Can we bring the slides, please?
To hear ask me this question many times, so I probably should have it off the top of my head.
So on this slide, on the notes on the bottom left, we have those numbers. The area that is included in the amended resolution is about 1.5 hectare. And the area for undeveloped area that is proposed to be returned is about 0.42 hectare. So those are the numbers.
Okay, so we will 0.7 hectares would be removed from the ALR.
Through the chair, if I can share some details here. So those areas which are shown in green is already part of the existing operation. So it's not like they are adding additional area or subtracting an established farmland, rather than these are the areas which are already used under the existing operation. However, as the applicant mentioned, that ALC requested this applicant to formalize that approval, which is already permitted through the 2010 resolution by the ALC.
And just to add a little more to that, just for clarification, so we wouldn't go through this again. Obviously, you need a driveway to get to the site, and it was built as part of I made sure, you see how that's green now?
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure that, that every single square inch of land that's already developed, this is already all developed. So there's no new development going into these areas that are being asked for. It's already developed, and ALC staff just told me to bring the site into compliance. You know, please put this application in. I'm a Burnaby boy. I grew up in BC. I remember when the NDP brought in the whole, ALR. I was in grade 10.
You say I don't.
So, and I still strongly, I believe in it. So we don't want any more than what we absolutely need. And that's why we took that little square area and said, we'll never use that, put it back in the ALR.
Will adding an anaerobic digester increase the amount of I was gonna say off farm, but amount of product you're bringing onto the site, or will you just be more efficient with what's already there?
We're hoping we can bring a little bit more onto the site, that's in the application here, which would allow us to produce more compost. And, from Evergent up at Sea to Sky in here, we push what we can to agriculture in the form of compost.
Great.
Okay.
Kim.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, I maybe have missed this in the application.
Okay.
But I'm just wondering, I'm looking at the benefit for agriculture here. So is your facility accepting, it says it keeps talking about accepting waste. Are you accepting manure from farms? And if you are, what percentage of farm manure are you accepting versus other types of organic material?
Yes, so the compost facility is a commercial operation. It receives primarily municipal SSO, but it also receives dead stock, and has in the past. It helped quite a bit with flood mitigation, post-flood mitigation. And, it's open to accepting other types of farm waste, like vegetables and that type of waste that need to be composted. So but it's primarily, municipal SSO. It's the primary feedstock.
So you're not accepting manure?
Well, I mean, we wouldn't turn manure away, but, manure is generally liquid manure, like we don't receive any liquid waste there. It's really more appropriate for those to go to a wet AD process like our Fraser Valley Biogas Facility or Seabreeze or Dicklands. Yeah, Colin, I think y'all know Colin Fry.
Colin Fry, I used to work at the Agricultural Land Commission, and I actually was participating in the 2010, show you how old I am. But I just want to put in a little historical context because this is not like the anaerobic digestion old. The history and the background of why a composting facility is even here was that there, back in the day, GBRD, now Metro and FERD, were trying to move forward towards the provincial objectives of reducing organic matter dumped in landfills. And so there was a number of composting applications that came in at that time. And this, at that time, I think the records will show that Abbotsford was very supportive of this one at that time. And it was primarily designed to take, I don't know what SS.
Simple SSO.
Yeah.
Source separated organic,
Okay.
basically curbside.
Right.
From.
And so when they set up this, and of course, going back 15 years, the technology used at that time was, a little bit more, and it has expanded under the auspices of the prior owner. And I got involved in this one, quite frankly, when it was just purchased by Evergen, and there was an outstanding Ministry of Environment penalty in order because of some environmental impacts that had occurred under the prior ownership. So the first part of this was to look at addressing that as primary activity. And that was proceeded with advising the commission of our intent of what we were going to do, but also respecting the fact that the Ministry of Environment's environmental protection regulations and orders trump the commission's jurisdiction in that regard. So we moved well, you can't see it now, but that little green area to the south was part of the lagoon that was moved. The original lagoon was on the northern boundary, close to the ditching system, and that's where the discharge occurred. And so it was the Ministry of Environment's requirement to move it. So I just wanted to put it in perspective that when we're talking feedstocks at that time, at least from the commission's perspective, the idea of putting composting facilities in this particular location and others was intended to meet the provincial objectives of reducing landfill organic matter, while at the same time saying that it could benefit farmers by taking either, in this case, compost or providing an outlet to receive if that was possible. I just want to put it in some perspective from the AOR side. And I, for the life of me, don't know what that little red shot was there, but there's another operator of something totally separate right beside, still under one ownership, but two separate entities are using it.
It's two separately. The other operation is a cannabis operation.
Right. So there you go.
Great, thank you for
Any other
clarity.
any
Are there any
questions
questions?
before I?
Yeah, Randy and Brad, are there any questions? No?
As far as like for an odor control, would the anaerobic digester have any impact on that? Would the odors released or gases released be more or less, or what impact would it have on the neighborhood?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question. The odor control systems would be upgraded, similar to what we did at Fraser Valley Biogas. That again was a facility we acquired, a somewhat rundown facility. And we've put a very strong effort on, we've moved storage of farm waste, solid farm waste, basically rotting organic matter indoors with a ventilation system now that captures odors and takes it out to a biofilter. And we've added a thermal oxidizer to destruct odor versus just a flare stack.
Right.
Yeah.
And you'd be looking at doing similar things with this site.
Correct. Correct.
I see Brad has a question.
I can speak to, I live within a kilometer and a half of Fraser Valley Biogas, and the work that you did to implement odor reduction there has made a difference. I noticed that for sure.
Yeah, thank you, Brad. And we're not done. That's
Kim has a follow-up question.
Yeah, I do have a follow-up question. So, so one of my questions with regards to what is the benefit for agriculture was, are you accepting excess manure or something? And the other question then is, there is currently a compost facility there. And so they say there's some, you say you will be supplying nutrient-rich compost, but that compost facility, where does it, what happens to the compost that's currently there, and what are the plans? So it's to apply it to farmland?
It's historically, a lot of that compost has been supplied to farmland. And you know, wherever that compost can go, it could be on farmland, it could be on the gardens of residents. If there's not enough demand for it in the area, then it go to a wider
area, because we've had issues with I think it's with a sister facility a little further to the west. So this is Class A compost, so it's applied as a soil amendment, and therefore you don't need a nutrient management plan. Is
16.
or how does that work?
That's
It's Class A compost, so it's,
that's the question. It is Class A compost, and,
Right.
and yeah.
So it's applied under.
And, you know, I'm aware of issues with other compost facilities in the province. We're not trying to be one of them. So I don't want to speak to other facilities, but we're trying to make sure that every molecule that comes in to our facility is accounted for when it goes out. So we have compost. You know, people think you bring in waste, residential waste, and it just all turns into compost. Well, it doesn't. And a lot of facilities, maybe they can't answer where the waste goes to. I can say right now, since we've acquired it, we've worked hard to make sure compost is Class A so it can go onto land. We can produce a hog fuel that right now goes up for use in generating renewable energy, biomass to energy, one of the provincial government's, objectives and initiatives. And the remainder goes to a municipal landfill where it should, the plastic, right? Like, I wish municipalities didn't have to let residents put their organics into a plastic bag, but I understand why they do. And, because if they don't, residents won't put their organics into a green bin at all. They'll put it into the black bin. So I understand all of that. But we at least can account for where our waste goes. I hope that answers your question, Kim.
yeah, thank you.
Okay.
I'll put forward a motion to support.
This is motion A for the digester.
Yeah. Yeah, just based on, basically proposed efficiencies of the system, being able to maximize the nutrients that are brought onto the site. Emit less gases and probably reduce odors.
Excellent. And seconded by Brad. Do you have any of the discussion, questions of our staff? I'll call the question and all those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Just a quick question. Abbotsford has a fairly robust process of we do not allow plastic bags. We try to cut that out. I just wondered if you could speak to that. I wouldn't be coming to the city about.
Well, it's correct that we don't allow it. That doesn't mean that some residents may not use them and that it doesn't get caught. The challenge is really at the store where it's sold, it's marketed. those products are marketed as compostable. And so residents who are buying it and are not aware of the city's requirements may purchase it thinking it's compostable. They may use it and that may not get caught. So I understand there is a certain level of contamination that exists, and that's why the screening process is so important to the compost process.
Great, thank you. I was guilty of that. It was compostable, wasn't.
Yeah.
But I think the education, we try to put that out in our mail or on our website and also as much as possible. But,
Yeah, actually, just as an aside, like I know that because I work in the Ministry of Agriculture with Dieter, and so I know that the plastic bags aren't compostable. But the other day I ran out of the paper bags that you're supposed to put in the compost, right? And I had a hard time finding more. There, because every store has the plastic ones and nobody has them. Like very few have the paper ones. So there really is an uphill battle there for compost facilities to get rid of those plastic bags. Yeah.
anyways, I just got my attention. Said plastic. I work hard. And then we'll go to the second component of this. It is the ALC non-farm use application to ban labs. So did you read it?
I'm all good.
Okay, more to add on that. So do we have one of those options? Do we have a blueprint sector for one of those options?
I'll make a motion to support. Yeah, it makes sense to be efficient with the space they or the landmass they have there. They're not adding any facilities outside of that, so. Yeah, I think I would support that.
Okay.
It's based on efficiency
Efficiencies
and bringing it into line with compliance.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a seconder for that? Seconded by Jasmine. Do you have any comments or questions of staff on this? Okay, so the motion has been made to forward to this second part of the application to the ALC with support. Question, all those in favor? Any opposed? Brad, are you opposed? No, okay, you're in favor. It's just that there was a delay on that thing there. Okay, so it passes unanimously from committee that this will be forwarded to council. Thank you. Don't see any other business. Entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by
Sure.
Jasmine, seconded by Matt. And all those in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you for joining us and appreciate the opportunity. Thank you, Chuck.